All right, well, welcome everybody. It is our second project team meeting of the year, October 19th. We will have another meeting in November, and I'm going to ask a huge favor that maybe we bump it back a day and do it on Tuesday, November 15th instead of the 16th. But you'll see that in the last slide when we get to it. So I'm hoping that works for everyone. We could have left it, but Betsy and I will be jet lagged and on East Coast time at that time. So I thought it might be better if we just moved it up a day, if that works for everyone. So just a heads up on that. The attendance code for Kick-Up is up in the right-hand corner for teachers in the room. If you want to use that, you can get that off of your slide as well. So our agenda for today is we'll do a little warm-up activity to get our minds thinking about our topics tonight, and just in general. We have some updates from our pilot. Mikako is here, Yoko is here to share with us. So I'm excited to hear from them. Also, we'll take a look at what Yvonne was able to share with us since she wasn't able to join us at our last meeting. We'll look at some of the teacher feedback so far. We have a form that Edward really came up with for our student feedback. Thank you, Edward. So excited to share that, and then we'll talk about our next steps. So we're going to just jump into breakout rooms in groups of 2, and we are going to just kind of do an anticipatory guide. And if you've seen this before, this is a really good way to just get you kind of throw out some sentences that really don't have necessarily a right answer, but it's really good for helping our students to just sort of start thinking about the topics that we might be diving into, not in having very little risk involved, because there really isn't a right answer. And then as a partner pair, you can follow these statements. We have a little guide here on the right. It says partner A says, I will read statement 1, or this first statement. It says curriculum content should always be accessible to students outside of school. I think I have a typo there. Outside of school hours. What do you think? Or I agree or disagree with it, because you tell what your reasoning, and then you say, I would mark this one, agree or disagree, and then ask your partner what they think. And then the partner would respond, say whether or not they agree or disagree, and then move on and read the next statement. So this is basically what you'll do. You'll go through each statement with your partner, and then we'll come back just ready to chat about the rest of the topics of the evening, and maybe something we've learned from each other as we go through these sentences. So I'm going to start the breakout rooms here. So you have been randomly assigned to a room, and I will open them now. And then if you have a copy of the slides, just go to that slide and then follow those comments and instructions.
Thank you, Yisung. You just summarized years and years of research around and when you introduced, the harder grammar parts of it, but focusing a lot on the functional use of language in the early stages to get kids using it, and then introducing it when they have more, the higher concepts, higher order thinking concepts, to be able to make sense of it. So yeah, no, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have something that came up? And I'm so sorry, I forgot to push record again, and we missed. I know, that was like beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's it resonates with me, because that's kind of the way I learned Spanish as well. I learned Spanish first in context living in Mexico, and then not until my graduate studies did I learn all the rules of grammar. And it does speak to that level of, like, the exposure was where I learned the most at the very beginning. And then after that, I was able to say, oh, that's why we say it that way, because of this particular grammar rule. So it's not that it's not important, but there's definitely different stages of language acquisition where it may come into play in different ways. So thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else?
It's funny when you said that, like I hadn't thought about like when I learned my grammar in English. I mean, I'm sure I was taught it all along the way, but it didn't really connect until like my first year in college. I had a teacher who was a nun and she was like, you guys are not going any further without knowing. And then she like drilled us really hard on English grammar so that we knew like how, it was all structured, but we already knew it. We just had it explained, and it's like, that is funny. Like, all those times as a teacher, we were like, these kids aren't punctuating properly. They'll never go on, and it's like, who cares? It's like, they'll be fine. The periods will arrive at the end of their sentences eventually,
I thought just ties into our conversation that Edward and I had about like real world versus the classroom, that it's not necessarily a versus, but like a combination of when, because I do think the real world does help you acquire quickly, but then the classroom like solidifies all of that learning and explains the why and makes those connections for you. So I think that one was really hard for me too, because I feel like you can learn so much in both contexts.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Another
Giselle and I also were talking about how we're all very different too. Like for some people, like if you can explain to me how, like what are the rules, then that helps me a lot. Whereas for other people, it's like, no. Like that's just a barrier. It keeps me from wanting to talk because I'm afraid I'll make a mistake or whatever, right?
I think Caleb and I talked about the same thing. Caleb said that he's learning a Mandarin, and he's a more intellectual student, so he wants to know that grammar structures are different from English and Mandarin because Mandarin is so abstract, according to his own set, and he wants to know that how different. And I think it depends on the stage. Middle schoolers don't care about the grammar. We just want to input a lot of stuff. So they'll output. However, high schoolers become a little bit intellectual and then contrast with the grammar structures in English or their first language. They want to know that they're making a correct sentences. So input first. And then some of the kids say, can you tell us what is the grammar structures? So it depends on the students. In my classroom, I tell them, this is a structure. So satisfy some of the logical learners. So we need to differentiate. Some of the kids are really quick to learn, input, okay, output. But some of the kids are, I want to know when you put the object, when put the verbs, because totally different structure. Mandarin and Japanese are different from English. So we are discussing about this same topic, just like you did. So that was interesting. First language acquisition, second language acquisition, that way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing, everyone. So much to love about these anticipatory sets where you get to really just get to thinking about all of this, and everyone coming from such different backgrounds in ways that we've interacted with language or learned other languages. So thank you for sharing and for participating in that activity. I'm going to share my screen again. And we are going to move on to the next slide here, which is pilot updates. So last time we met, Yvonne wasn't able to be with us. So what she did is she sent us a letter that tells a little bit about, based on our best practices and our position paper, why it is that she feels like signing naturally in Dawn Press is what will work best for her ASL students. And so I'd really like to give us a little bit of time to read her letter. And then there are links at the bottom of the letter. And I thought it was super interesting. I clicked on and if you want to do this first, I clicked on the video that she refers to in her mini lesson to see kind of what the students were studying as they were looking at Black ASL and the nuances between different kinds of ESL, certain signs that are international and certain signs that are very specific to certain cultures. So I thought that was really interesting. And that was the lesson that she wanted to share with us, especially in response to Giselle, your question last time when we met was, how does culture play into this curriculum that she's selecting? And so I'll let you take a look at that. I'm going to put the 10-minute timer on so I don't forget, but you'll see her letter is here. And within that letter, you'll see the links at the bottom. These are here. So this is the Signing Black in America video that it's actually like 30 minutes long. So, but if you watch the first few minutes of it, you'll get the idea, and it's really a really good a good video. So go ahead and dive into that for a moment. You can turn off your screens and we will come back in 10. I thought it was extremely interesting to see some of the differences and nuances between and it just reminds me of all, as a Spanish teacher, just all the nuances of the languages and how it's spoken in different places, and pretty eye-opening, I think, to see that that is also true in the ASL world. And I love that Yvonne brought that into one of her lessons. So hopefully everybody had a chance to take a look at that. I wanted to give her content some space and time.
Excuse me, if I may add, I would really love to know if Yvonne herself has a friend from that community, and then she can introduce to her students. And about the Coforth Thursday pre-conference presentation workshop, the presenter was mentioning about Spanish, how to say French fries in different countries, or the intonation of Coca-Cola or Pepsi.
Yeah.
Yes, and then I must share the drive that she shared all the participants.
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I think, I had learned Spanish in Mexico, and then I went to Ecuador, and I thought, oh gosh, everybody here speaks Spanish too, but you're not going to get salsa and tortillas in Ecuador. That's not what they eat, but I would like, where's my chile and where's my, it was eye-opening. And then I moved to Nicaragua, where the language uses a voceo form of Spanish, and it's all entirely different, plus vocabulary terms that are different. Like if we say map as trapeador in Spanish in Mexico, they would say lampazo in Nicaragua. So it wasn't just the conjugations of verbs, like their familiar form of the verbs, it was also even vocabulary that was very different. And to think, in over 20 countries we speak Spanish, it does not, I learned the lesson very practically and in my travels that it definitely doesn't mean that it's all the same. So
I think I love that about the video too, because I think it pointed out that like the Black community, ASL community is also not a monolith. Like you see, right, the younger generation and the older generations in different pockets. And I appreciated that.
exactly. Yeah. And I know the video might not be something necessarily like produced by Signing Naturally, but this is all part of the content that she's able to, use in her instructions. So yeah, very cool.
I
Giselle?
really enjoy the video. I think it makes total sense. It's a language, and because it's a language, has all the same characteristic of any language. I think the issue is that we are not educated about sign language in general. And we don't know, we don't even consider that they are different type of sign language, different, even the culture. You may see the culture embedded there from different cultural groups, how they change their signing. So I think it's part of that maybe the majority of the people have not been exposed to this sign language and all these qualities. I think is like you said before, an eye-opener, really interesting topic. We should talk more about this, because I think the sign language in some ways, the minority of the minority in the languages sometimes is maybe cataloged like a minority group, and basically is super important like any other language. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, what if we showed a little clip of that during, our other world language courses, and said, how does this even relate? You know, as they're talking about the differences and different nuances and of the language, you know, that's pretty cool to make that connection too, I think, for our students and for us. Awesome. Well, without further ado, I'm really excited to share also with you. Mikako is going to share the Japanese curriculum that we are piloting. And Yoko is also here representing our one of our piloting teachers, also piloting Japanese. And the Chinese Mandarin teacher Yin Cheng is not with us tonight, but also exploring the same publisher. So you'll see some of the same lessons, same activities as what Mikako and Yoko are going to share with us tonight. So do you want to share your screen, Mikako? What's best for you?
I don't know if I was ready or not. I'm gonna, let's see, is this
so the only thing I included in our slides for the project team is just links to the website.
Oh, these are your site. Oh, yeah, I need to go to my site.
Okay.
Can you see my Canvas page now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. You surprised how many classes I have, different classes. Look at this.
Yeah.
Gosh. Well, I'm just gonna go over. Today, we had Japanese level 1's kids had a listening test. Thanks for the new publishers shared us with their online textbook. So I had ahead of time, kids kind of listen to their cyber way in online textbooks. So I'm gonna go, if I can do here. So I assigned them to go to Fluency link and go listen if they are really nervous about what they have to do. So I shared, I have a 93 first year kids, and then they just started learning Japanese, and the listening test is scary for them. You know, like what teacher's gonna do? I don't know what she's gonna do. Then we have this embedded textbook right here, and then embedded workbook. So this is a page I'm gonna test, and then students said, what can I study? It's just so hard. And I say, go open your workbook pages 1 and 2 and listen this one, and the audio is embedded right here. So you get to hear.
Lesson 1. Listening exercises. You may not know all the Japanese you hear, but use what you do know along with your imagination. A. 1. ケンさんの電話番号は何ですか
673-2817です。
すみません。もう一度お願いします。
So anyway, you get the idea. So kids listen beforehand. And so they are well prepared. They don't need to do anything. And then some of the really worried kids say, what do I study? Go there and then check with it. If you don't know, ask me when you come back to classroom. And then there, everybody got the A's from this today's listening portions. And before, we didn't have anything to preview. You just go over the vocabulary. But this helped ease their anxiety, and then also they listen many times if they want it, so that saved their life in a way. So I appreciated this item. And then kids are really eager to, they don't have to carry heavy textbook. Japanese textbook probably like this big is like a 2 pound, and they usually stay home and then they don't have any access. But if they have this accessibility, they get to have audios all the time. And then they get to open the their textbooks. So click away these items. So I really, really appreciate this Chen Tsui's, online way to do that. I'm gonna have to not stop sharing so I get to see your face. So anyway, so that's one way. And then also this Chen Tsui's online textbook supports classroom materials. One is they have a vocabulary list for each unit. So teacher can just print it out and then give it to the kids as a formative assessment. And then also they come with the unit assessment, which is variety of skills, reading, writing, and listening, and all kinds of 4 skills that are BSD required to do that. And then also oral assessment comes with example questions, coming with each unit, 21 unit practices. They provide answers in the audio, but they can tweak it. They can change it a little bit and you can go over. Say, my Japanese 3 class today had an oral test. Who does laundry in your house? And then they say, I do. Then how often do you do the laundry? And then if somebody say, my mom does, and then how often does she wash? Is she is she good at it? So you can divide it up, and each level you can layer their questions. Also, they have a listening assessment, which is just like each unit embedded into it. And then kids can practice. And writing option is at the end of each workbook has a writing component. They have to compile all of the vocabulary, grammars that each unit learned. They have to write the small sentences. So it comes with the 4 skills. So language is used in a context based on the topic, each unit. So, and then also activities are communicative activities. Kids can learn with the language partners, with the desk partners, or teacher can use it in a classroom as a classroom unit. And there's a games included, stuff like that. So I thought it was kind of unique to do that. And the materials are aligned with the BSD, just like Yvonne said, our flashcard comes with the colored flashcard for each of the unit, and it describes all kinds of ethnic background, even a kid in a wheelchair, or any variety of, you see the representation of each of the ethnic background. So I thought really appreciated for that. And each unit has a cultural notes. It calls a cultural notes, and it has a cultural lesson. Kids can explore an internet research and then create a slideshow if teacher chooses to do that. Lower level, they have to do it in English and present it, but level 3 to level 4, we have all the way to level 7, but these kids can use the target language and make them think about why they are different, why we are different. What makes you do that? Home cultures, what do you do in your situation? Like a celebration of the cultures, pick one cultures you have to describe. And what do you eat? When do you celebrate? Do you do something special beforehand? So something like that. And cultures are very interesting and make them think about it. I don't want to feed all of the information to the kids because I'm representing one Japanese person. And then I don't want to give them a stereotype telling them what I do, because they don't need to know me. They need to research about variety of generation of the Japanese kids, and they will find something new in a new generation too. So these are very interesting idea to give them and then a step up, there's on the bottom of the cultural unit, they have, if they want to learn deeper, there's a more deeper ending thinking. So you have to go this step up thinking, say, where this culture is originated. Is that a really original Japanese, or is that come from China or Korea or Western countries? When did it arrive to Japan? So this is more like a deeper thinking people. So if you want to take up, and if you have a lot of kids are interested, you can bring in this topic and discuss about it. Higher levels, they can discuss in the target language. Lower level, they can discuss in English. So these are interesting ideas. And also, like I said already, each unit provides a lot of fundamental support. Like I said, writing, reading, speaking, and listening materials. So if I do it too much, I'm going to take one unit forever, but teacher can pick and choose. So there's a nice that you can pick and choose. According to this Chen Tsui Corporation, they say the company, we can create our own quiz. I haven't tried it yet because we didn't align with the Canvas yet. So that's the only things that I haven't done it. We took a long time to connect with the Canvas. So it's ideal if I connected with the schools or Canvas, that would be really nice. However, if it's not aligned with the Canvas, but still kids are taking advantage of it. Kids just open up their Chromebook, listening to the textbook, they're reading a textbook in a classroom. First thing they come in the morning, they open up and reading a textbook. I didn't assign them to read it, but they're just reading it. I thought it was kind of neat, carrying a heavy Japanese, this much of textbook, they can't do that. So accessibility is really great. And best practice is kids have a more authentic language. People speaking authentic language in audio. So I can't speak all the time. They get to hear female voice, they get to hear male voice, they get to hear child voice, they get to hear the elderly voice. So variety of voices. So that's really great. So they are introducing intonation and pronunciations really well. So these are aligned. And then also when I look at the higher level kids textbook called the Dekiru, these are really aligned with IB kids. They were deeper project-based learning. So it connected with the IB's principles, how people behave this way, what is, identify yourself, why you behave this way, not only just comparing it. So, not leading to the stereotypes. Back in old days, all the textbook has a lot of stereotyping ideas but now make them kids think about it much deeper. So that's how I found out. Also, Oregon State of CO, Oregon Seal of Dual Language and IB exam, I think we can prepare if we takes a level 1, 2, 3, and 4 with these Chensi. Chensi has been a long-known company for a long time. We've been using it since like early 1990s, and they step up and made a colorful textbooks. These colorful textbooks makes kids much attractive to read it more. So that's how I found out. I think that's for now. Does anybody has any questions? I didn't prepare a lesson plan because I wanted to show you my Canvas, but we just started using a week ago, to be honest, because it took a long time to connect to the Canvas. So I just using a bits of pieces, but kids already love it.
Hi, Mikako. I do have some questions.
Yes.
Thank you so much for presenting on that curriculum and the resource. I think you mentioned that for every unit there is a culture target,
Correct.
right? Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. And then you also talked about how the activities are authentic activities.
Mhm.
So for example, if they're learning about, if they want to learn about family structure or
Mhm.
about how to, order from a restaurant or whatever it
Mhm.
may be,
Mhm.
what are some types of activities that are authentic that they have to do?
There's a traditional way is a skit. They suggested to do the skit. So they introduce in the dialogues, waitresses and a customer's skit is there. And then a waitress is serving food in a certain way in Japanese restaurant with the tray. So there's a pictures there too. So kids will play skit for that unit. And then they will create a paper mache for the food and serving a food, something like that. So there's a lot of pictures inside. So you get to see it. And there's a lot of picture of the Japanese food is introduced, authentic Japanese food. So that's another way to learn it. Yeah.
So that's another cultural connection is
Correct.
using food as a way.
Yes.
And do you have a sense of how this curriculum, how is it like close to, how does it compare to like curriculum that is used in Japan for native speakers, for example, of a language, or English speaking institutions that are adding Japanese as an additional language?
I think this is very natural way. They try not to teach very difficult languages yet. In Japan, we have so many layers of politeness, but for this peer age, for the teenagers, I think this is a very appropriate for their age-wise. Canvas polite enough, but yet not to slang. They can homestay and have
Mm.
function in a Japanese host families. They can go to Japanese school, function it without disgracing themselves. So they are
Mhm.
pretty functional as a teenager.
Yeah.
I don't know about adults. I'm not teaching adults right here, but I think they have a layer of politeness inside embedded in too. So there's a very natural language order they're teaching it. So I like the way
Okay.
it teaches it. Very conversational too, communicative.
Okay, sorry, I have one more
Uh-huh.
question. Does the curriculum already include some of the formative assessments for
Mhm.
language, or even
Yes.
performance-based assessments for reading,
Yes.
writing, speaking, listening?
Yeah, they have a speaking test at the end of each unit. It gives your teacher some idea how to prepare, and then audio is already embedded it. So there is a question and answer. Kids can randomly select and listen to it, or they can practice, but teacher don't have to use all 20 questions. They can pick and choose at the site. So that's more natural. Or they can go deeper, like, who does laundry at your house? Like a level 3 kids, I did it today. And then also, who does cooking? Or me, I do. That if some kids say, are you a good cook? What do you cook? So you can go a little bit deeper. So all the kids say,
Yeah.
I cook egg, boiled egg, or top ramen. Say, I don't think that's cooking in Japanese sense, but that's okay.
Sorry, and I did see in the resource, so in every unit, do they add the hiragana and the katakana?
Yeah. And then
Is that
kanji,
for each?
kanji,
And
yeah.
kanji?
kanji.
Ah, okay.
Little by little, they're adding a kanji because IB requires 400 to 600 kanji. So they're adding like 6 to 7 kanjis for each unit.
Okay,
Yeah,
wow, that's
they have to master
awesome.
hiragana and katakana in first month. They master first month.
Okay, and then kanji is kind of like woven
Little
in.
by little,
You
moving
add the
it. Yeah.
characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Those are all my questions.
I
Thank
think
you.
I see somebody was raising hand.
Yeah, I have questions about your program. Sounds very interesting. Let me lower my hand. If we can put a percentage on how much language and culture the program provides, what percentage would you give to each section, language and culture?
Language and culture should be embedded. You can't separate the language and culture separately. You have to teach language and culture 100% at the same time. If you're speaking in Japanese, 90%, 95%, 99%, it have to be embedded into the culture. So I
Yes,
don't
but
separate.
the program offers what percentage? I mean, is
Oh, at the end of the unit, like
in
I said, the cultural note is embedded in. It's like a 10%. I would say depends on a teacher. 10%. You can make it expand one of the lesson to a little bit more bigger. If you are embedding in using a target language, explaining a culture, then you can make it 20%. But I would say 10%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my other question is, you mentioned about the formative assessment, so materials are ready for the teacher.
Yes.
How do you see the teacher, like you or any other Japanese teacher, building materials with this? Because we have very little planning time, and that's something that I have been beginning to consider. What program is providing me with all the resources as well that also are useful for the teacher, that we're not breaking our nights and weekends preparing and then we're drained. So how do you see that resources and materials that this program provides you? Provide you with Google Slide, provide you with assessments and audios or podcasts or anything, I don't know.
This provides a flashcard slide, colorful slide for each of the new vocabulary for each unit. So you don't have to create it. It provides vocabulary list for each unit, new vocabulary list. This provides vocabulary quiz. This provides a unit test, oral test, composition test, composition also listening test. Everything is there. It's up to you to use it. If you use everything, it takes forever to finish one unit. So you pick and choose which one to use it. But I think it's ready to use. I have like a 6 preps. So I've been using it and pulling, taking it, and it's great because it's uses for formative assessment. And then some teacher uses composition and listening for each other unit. And then sometimes I use for speaking for other unit. I don't do everything. I'll do probably 2 skills tests for each unit. So it's up to you. And then you can create a skit because there's a great dialogue and example dialogue at the beginning of the unit. So like I said, restaurant. Then you can have a, instead of having authentic test, you can say, let's do the skit at the end of the unit. Say, small group of kids can create the restaurant scenes. You have to create the food from paper mache or maybe Play-Dohs, create a unit. You have to create the menus. You have to wear the aprons, or maybe you have to wear the white shirts or black pants, and then prepare the plates. And then you are the customer. You have to have a certain problems at the restaurant, and then complain to the waiter or waitress. So you can create that way too. So it gives you an idea at the beginning of the unit dialogue. So that's another way to do. So there's a flexibility for teachers to pick and choose.
And my last question.
Yes.
How do you see the content of the program providing to the students a little bit of history, a little bit of community life, a bit, like geography, a little bit of something that is not necessarily the learning of the language itself, but is embedded with the language? Because I think it's important also not only learn about the language, Japanese, like you said before, you have to be taught language and culture embedded together, but how much of that extra information, like maybe pop stars or in the restaurants, what type of food are in the north and the south of Japan, and what is the production? I don't know.
If you go through the volume 3, there's a lot of, you have a pop music research project, and you have to listen different type of Japanese music and critique and introduce to the class. That's another one. Japanese 2, I think Japanese volume 3, something about Japanese house or traditional house. And then you have to create a small house and explain to what is the best house, Japanese house for you. So there's a lot of course, geography is included, like each of the major islands names are tested, and major cities are tested, and what is each city's famous food or places to go. So there's another project idea for representation of each of the 47 states. So another one too. So of course, these are included. And in history, of course, we talk about currency. Who's on the currency? What the difference between US currency and Japanese currencies, people is printed out. So there's a lot of information. Food is another one. Kids love food. And there's a cooking unit too. You have to cook something. We teach them. There's an origami unit. And we learned about Japanese sumo wrestling, the big guys and fighting on the little, circles, that kind of stuff. Japanese baseball players. So we do have lots of variety of pop cultures in there. I didn't really mention it, but sometimes there's a kind of between the unit, there's a break. So kids can explore current issues and, stuff like that. Even we have a history too, touch base with the history. Because ISP kids junior year, they learn Asian history. They learn Japanese, Chinese, and a bit of Korean history. So they come well equipped in an IB class. So they also learn history between US and Japan, what happened in the past. And we learn about Japanese American history that are interned in West Coast. So that kind of stuff. So it's embedded into the volume 3 textbook.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mikako. Yoko, you've been using some of the materials too. Do you want to say anything?
Excuse me, thank you. Yes, so just because I have volume 1 for first year and the second year of learners, for my third year students, we have this Adventures in Japanese, volume 2. And just like Mikako Sensei introduced, the good thing is about this 4th edition is everything is current in color, and the basic culture begins with the manga culture, so that after 14 kanji for this unit, we can learn the context by reading manga. Yes, so that it's really bright and introductory, and even the posture of how they wear, and then how they introduced to the restaurant layout and all that. And then later on, they will actually teach each other to cook sukiyaki meal, and then learn about ingredients in Japanese language. And then we'll just get to learn about the history of soybeans. And you can expand. And for the book 3, I usually use for my 4th year learners. And then that each chapter or unit has one historically well-known Japanese person, and in a nicely summarized with the photograph and historic events. So it's very, very easy to follow and really moving. So I really like it. And then for those who decides to skip a 4th year and then jump right into AP Japanese, then we do have another material, Dekiru, preparatory, just like a practice book. So my students can use AP Central, AP Japanese material digitally, and this Chain and Sui company's prep book material as well. And it's I really recommend this adventure series. And I had a chat with Brian Bangalore sensei today at Westview. He and my previous teacher, Ben Novinger sensei, as non-native language teachers, they chose adventure 15 years ago. And then they are really happy even now. So I'd like to share that with you too.
Yeah.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you.
Thank you.
15 years ago was a 1st edition. Ours is choosing as a 4th edition. So it's different,
Hi.
updated with the color pictures, more current cultures.
New and improved. Yes. And that's impressive that there's, they have that longevity too of, and then
Yeah.
just continually improving. Yeah.
Yes, involving, yes.
Yeah, I'm excited that they included manga as part of the I just went to Barnes and Noble. My daughter is into manga, bought like so many books for her
Yeah.
favorite anime character. So I'm glad they're incorporating that into the curriculum.
It's a great entry for kids. It's super popular. It's great.
And check out the book section at Uwajimaya.
Yep, we bought the workbooks that were
Yeah.
really good.
That's great. Thank you
I
so
don't think
much.
people say this very often, but I want to go back to high school so then I can go take Japanese and then ASL.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, we are at the moment in our presentation or in our meeting today where we take a break. So it feels like everyone might need one. And thank you so much, Mikako and Yoko, for being here. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, but I really appreciate your knowledge and all you do for your kids in teaching Japanese in our district. So thank you so much for your presentation and your time tonight. Thank you. And everyone else will be back in 10 minutes. So just a few minutes after the hour.
So my dream is that the 1st year, book 1, right now we are using book 1 for 9th grade and 10th grade. If we can do this, 8th grade for book 1, so that the 3rd year can use book 3 instead of 2. So we are spending 2 years for book 1. So that's my ideal dream.
More
Hawaii.
languages at the middle school.
Right. Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is our dream too.
So
you know what
in
else-
Hawaii,
else
they
I
are doing
noticed?
it. Yeah.
You know what else I noticed about this company, this particular company, they actually have an Arabic curriculum as well. And I hadn't seen an Arabic curriculum yet, so I noticed that.
Wonderful.
Oh, that's
Interesting.
good to
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
At least we're looking for heritage
additional-
Arabic.
No, right?
cultures.
Oh, God.
Yes, very much. And
Okay.
I'm more than happy to get involved with it.
Yeah. Thank you, Yoko.
Thank you.
So, so far we've had our teachers who are piloting and part of our cadre have been collecting some of their comments and thoughts on their discussion guides. But I also wanted to show you, we just did a little quick at the end of our meeting last time, a little Padlet of what are you noticing about the student experience when using this curriculum. So I love what I'm seeing here. It was really exciting to me to just hear that students enjoy talking about traditions and culture. They enjoy seeing art representing the culture and values. They like the online games and practices. This I think came from you, Edward. I'm finding it easier to stay in the target language. You know, if you have a curriculum that's allowing you to, or helping you to feel more, making it feel like you can stay in the target language more often, like that is super powerful and super meaningful, and not something that not something especially that our current curriculum offers, right? There's a lot of explaining that happens, or other things that you feel like you have to switch to English, but to have the majority of the instruction and interaction happening in the target language or in the language of study is obviously ideal and what we're shooting for. So to hear that and see that is pretty exciting. Students liked the information to the Spanish speaking countries at the beginning of the year. Content feels relevant and authentic and age appropriate. A lot of creativity in the students' explanations, especially the lines that required students' input and opinion. Surprised that they were not using Google Translate when there were some of the open-ended questions that they needed to work on. They're engaged, they like the activities. Like the audio activities for practice. They like the vocabulary flashcards. They can engage with the online materials. Some are taking risks and talking in the target language and recording themselves without fear of judgment. So just by looking at some of these comments and things that our teachers are saying about the student experience, it's exciting to see that we really have two great contenders as far as for our French and Spanish languages. Both Vista and Wayside have done a really good job of capturing the cultural piece as well as learning language and context. And so it's great news in the sense of these are both really solid options for us. It's not great news in the sense that this is going to be a really hard decision. So I'm going to go back to our slides here. You have this template in our master document. But if you can click on this summary comparison, and I will put it in the chat so you have it handy, but it's also there. Just going to give us about, I know it's never enough time, but I'm going to give us about 5 minutes just to skim through what our teachers are saying so far. These are the questions that came out of our discussion guides. The things that have been said about Wayside, things that have been said about Vista based on these discussion guide questions. If the color changes of the font, it's just because it was another teacher adding their comments. So I pulled all of these together. So you have like this particular question, 4 teachers answered it. So there was the black font is the first teacher, and then blue or teal is second teacher, third teacher, fourth teacher, and that's how that works. So if you notice the difference in font colors, it's just different teachers sharing their thoughts and ideas to these questions. So about 5 minutes. You can turn your cameras off if you like, and we'll come back in 5. All right. like I said, I know it's not enough time. I'm not really a fast reader. It takes me a while to digest some of this stuff. So I apologize that kind of rush everyone through that, but hopefully that kind of at least kind of gets you an idea of what our teachers are saying so far, those that are piloting the curriculum. We did have more teachers add their responses to the Wayside than we did to Vista. So I'll be asking the cadre next week to really fill in the blanks for us. So thank you for digging into that. You can always go back and read that a little bit more too, knowing the task that we have ahead of us of really determining which one is going to be best for our students. So I'm going to go to this next part. We obviously want to hear from our students and hear what they're saying about the content. So thank you, Edward, for giving us an example and allowing us to use the survey that you created. So when Edward gave his survey to his students, I'll just show you kind of what the graphs look like here. We won't dive into it deep because we don't have feedback from all of our students yet, but this is a really great way to see how our students are feeling about the I love that one of them said, why is this question not optional? Was that down here? That's great. So I'm going to go back to from Edward's form. We just made a general form for everyone to use. Then thank you for reminding me that we needed to make sure we knew which one they were selecting or working with. Can they understand what the teacher's saying? That would also apply, as the teacher's using the target language or the language of study. I can understand the textbook pages, the online activities, what they're asking me to do. I feel like I can do what the textbook is asking me to do. I notice a difference between the teaching style with this text and with our online curriculum. Difference between this and last year would apply if they had taken a course with us last year. So I think that's really helpful information. And then other comments that they might have for us. So I don't know if you have any other feedback on this form, if there's anything you think we should add. We haven't had any students respond to this yet, so I'm happy to add more questions. Is there another thing I was going to say about this? Just if you have any other questions you think I should add. Otherwise, we will be sharing this. Oh, were you saying something, Edward?
Sorry, I was going to say I made this, kind of in 10 minutes one day. I wasn't expecting it to go viral here, but
well, thank you. I think it was great. I looked at what your students said and I was like, this is really great feedback. And I thought we could also even use this, as if like Betsy and I are planning to go visit some classrooms and see what the kids are doing. Like these are some of the questions we want to ask our students as we're interviewing them.
But what about I don't know, do you feel like you're learning? I mean, or a question like, is this type of learning, I don't know. I mean, I did mention that, do you see the approach is different, but is that, are you learning more? Are you called on to learn, is your language expanding more than in previous chapters or something like that? I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. I'm writing it down so I can think of best way to say that and what kind of options to give.
Yeah.
Thank you. That sounds good. Anybody else have a suggestion or anything?
No, as Edward was speaking, I was typing and I think we were saying the same thing. Yeah. Do you feel
Okay.
more comfortable now using Spanish or French as a result of this new way of learning or this new curriculum?
Yeah.
Using the language. Yep. Thank you. Okay. Well, and feel free to email me or any of that. If it comes to you later and you're thinking, oh, I just thought of something, that's absolutely fine too. So thank you for that. And then Betsy, I'll let you take it away with the whole 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, no problem. Would you mind putting it on slideshow? But the next slide is like the text is pretty small. Thank you. So basically when Carol and I were, looking at this, because I'm really actually new to the process. So I was like, wait a minute. I need to see what we're deciding. So but I figured probably everybody's kind of at that point because we use like different terms like for the, sometimes we say Vista and Wayside, sometimes we use the name of the textbook for that level. So I just kind of created a little chart to think about like, so, okay, so what do we have to do next? So in November, we have one more meeting in November where we get to hear from the cadre and get information. And then as the schedule stands, December 7th, we're going to vote and make a decision on these. And then finally, if we don't change the schedule, then it'll be presented to the board, like our decision or our recommendation. So I just wanted to sort of step back for a second, make sure we all kind of know what we're making decisions about. And then for us to stop and think about like, what do we know? But then what do we need to know so that we can ask that of the cadre next week so that when we meet next time, we'll have adequate information. So just to be clear, so for French, we have a choice of two. There's Vista and Wayside. The names of them, I'm gonna not show off my French, but anyway, Chemin and Entrée Couture are the two ones. So the Vista one, and then the Wayside is Entrée Couture. And then so what do we know about it? And we're thinking about what do we need to know? And then for Spanish, Vista and Wayside. So we have levels 1, 2, 3, and a lit and comp choice. And so we have Encuentros for and Galería for Vista, and then we have Entre Culturas and Tejidos for Wayside. And then we have the ASL and Chinese and Japanese, and there's not a choice. We just heard from them what they thought about these ones. So I'm guessing we'll support that, but we may want more information from them even still before we make that recommendation. So in the chat, if you could real quick while we wrap up, if you could put any of your I will skip the what we know, but we'll put in what you feel like we need to know, and we'll be able to capture that from the chat because it'll be recorded. So if you could just put what things you feel like we need to know in order to make our decision or recommendation.
All right, and it is 6:30. So thank you for putting something in the chat. Also, you can always email us. Let us know if there's anything else you're thinking. I really wish the cadre could help us understand this particular thing. Then we will work on that next week and bring that back to this team. And this is our invitation once again. Anyone on this team is welcome to observe in a classroom. You can interview a teacher, you can interview a student. That's always super valuable feedback for this process. So feel free to connect with me or with one of the teachers directly. Use the master document and find the list of piloting teachers if you want to just go directly to the teacher. Otherwise, I'm happy to make that connection for anybody who wants to. And then, like I said, I bumped our next meeting. I hope that's okay, to Tuesday, November 15th from 4:30 to 6:30. It's a date change. And then we will hear from our Spanish and French team, representatives from our Spanish and French teams about Vista and Wayside. So again, if there's anything else we can ask for our cadre for more information, please let us know. We need to bring that back to this team. So does anybody have any questions or anything else? I know it's that time to be with our families. All right. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
No,
So thank you. Thank you for being here. If we didn't have you, we wouldn't have the ability to say, yes, we do have a student representative on this team, and he does give us really good feedback. So thank you.
I'm happy to be here, and it's a really cool experience.
That's
to be-
awesome.
Well, and actually you'd be a good source like of information from other students. So if you happen to
Oh.
get a chance to like ask your friends that are
Mhm.
maybe taking these classes to see what they think about it, it'd be pretty cool. And I think that there'd be a lot more candor with you
Oh.
than with us, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
I can do that. I can try to figure out.
Interview some people. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah, just
great.
ask, what do you think? You know, it's like, what do you like? What don't you like? That kind of stuff.
Mhm.
If we, you know,
Yeah,
Yeah,
super
that'd be-
cool.
I can do that for Chinese and Japanese.
awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you both. Have a good night.
Thank you. Yeah, you too.
Bye, thanks.
Bye.